Welcome back to our news bulletin. The number of global COVID-19 cases has crossed 9 million as the total topped 471,000. In Brazil, 654 people have died overnight, with the tally exceeding 51,000. The total in the US has crossed 120,000. Further details in this report.
Despite no signs of the pandemic abating, people in Brazil have swarmed Rio de Janeiro beaches amid surging infections. Meanwhile, Canada's largest city, Toronto, will enter the second stage of the three-step reopening plan from tomorrow. An alarming surge in the COVID-19 cases in parts of the US following the ease in lockdowns is raising concerns. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the rising rate of infections and hospitalizations was unacceptable, but he said he has no plans of shutting down the state again.
COVID-19 remains a very fast-spreading virus that will remain in Texas, the United States, and across the entire world until treatments are available to mitigate it. As a result, we must find ways to return to our daily routines while also learning ways to coexist with COVID-19.
In the UK, cinemas, museums and galleries will reopen from 4th of July as Prime Minister Boris Johnson further eases restrictions. Elsewhere, after months of closure, Tokyo's Disney Resort will open on July 1st. The World Health Organization says the lack of global leadership and unity to fight the coronavirus is a bigger threat than the outbreak itself.
The world is in desperate need of national unity and global solidarity. The politicization of the pandemic has exacerbated it. Ultimately, the pandemic has shown that we are humanity, one humanity, and none of us are safe until all of us are safe.
In Thailand, the Red Cross is working overtime, providing 800,000 masks to migrant workers and health volunteers.
In Pakistan, 105 more people have died from the coronavirus overnight, raising the total to 3,695. The health ministry says 3,946 new cases have been reported during the past 24 hours, taking the count to over 185,000. The ministry said nearly 73,500 patients have recovered so far, while over 3,200 are critical. The southern province of Sindh leads in the number of infections with more than 71,000 cases, while Punjab is second with over 68,300 cases. In another news, China says it has agreed with India to take measures to ease tensions along a disputed stretch of their border. At a media briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian rejected Indian media reports of 40 Chinese casualties in the conflict, calling it a fake news. This comes after 20 Indian soldiers died on June 15th in a clash at the disputed Galwan Valley along the line of actual control. The heightened tensions between the two countries have drawn international concerns with the UN, urging both sides to exercise maximum restraint. US President Donald Trump has extended a pause on some green cards and suspended visas for other foreign workers until the end of 2020. In a press briefing, the White House official said the move will create jobs for Americans hurting economically due to the pandemic. They said the freeze will impact about 525,000 people, including 170,000 people blocked by green cards ban. Officials said those who already have valid visas will not be affected, even if they are currently outside of the US. The order is in line with Trump's hardline policy, as he has ramped up his anti-immigrant rhetoric ahead of November's presidential election. The Saudi-led coalition in Yemen says it has intercepted 3 ballistic missiles launched by the Houthi rebels. In a statement, coalition spokesperson Colonel Turki al-Malki said the missiles were heading towards the Saudi Arabian cities of Najran and Jizan. Al-Maliki said the coalition also intercepted Houthis' 8 explosives-laden drones towards the kingdom yesterday. Houthis say they will issue a statement regarding a broad operation in Saudi Arabia today. Now, Saudi Arabia says this year's Hajj will be held with a limited number of pilgrims from all nationalities living inside the kingdom. The state media said the decision comes in light of coronavirus risk and difficulty of achieving social distancing. It said all Muslim communities have welcomed the country's preventive measures to maintain the safety of pilgrims since the start of the pandemic. In March, Saudi Arabia asked Muslims to put their Hajj plans on hold and suspended Umrah until further notice. Some 2.5 million pilgrims visit the holiest sites of Islam in Mecca and Medina for the week-long Hajj pilgrimage. Thousands of Palestinians in Jericho have staged a protest against Israel's unilateral plan to annex parts of the West Bank and Jordan Valley. Dozens of foreign diplomats, including UN peace envoy for the Middle East and EU's representative, also attended the demonstrations.
British, Chinese, Russian, Japanese, and Jordanian diplomats participated in the rally. UN envoy Nikolai Mladenov said US-backed annexation plan can kill peace and Palestinian statehood. He said annexation is against international law and Palestinians must oppose Israeli plan by peaceful means. Meanwhile, hundreds of Bedouins also demonstrated against Tel Aviv's plans to confiscate their land in Khirbat al-Watan village in Negev region of southern Israel. High Follow-up Committee for Arab Citizens of Israel held protests in the city of Be'er Sheva with Arab members of Israeli Knesset taking part. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki announced UN Human Rights Council adopted 3 resolutions in favor of Palestine. The resolution endorsed Palestinians' right to self-determination and human rights in occupied territories.
Now, France says it will not tolerate Turkey's military intervention in Libya, accusing Ankara of playing a dangerous game. Speaking in Paris, President Emmanuel Macron said Ankara is violating all of its commitments made at the Berlin conference earlier this year. Macron said Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had a right to intervene in Libya because of the shared border. He said Sisi has a reason to worry when he sees troops arriving at his border. Macron said Libya is a Mediterranean subject which affects France, as every day scores of men and women are fleeing to Europe.
I have already had the opportunity to say very clearly to President Tayyip Erdogan, I consider that Turkey is playing a dangerous game in Libya today and going against all of its commitments made at the Berlin conference.
Now, the UN Security Council has adopted a resolution to renew the mandate of its assistance mission in Somalia until 31st August. The resolution requested the Secretary General to continue keeping Security Council informed on its implementation. The Council will also be updated on the ground situation and progress towards achieving key political benchmarks. Earlier, the Security Council decided unanimously on March 30th to extend the mandate of the mission until June 30th. UNSOM has established in June 2013 after assessment of the UN in support of the establishment of the federal government of Somalia. In Tunisia, police have fired tear gas to disperse the anti-government protesters, hurling stones at them and blocking roads in the southern city of Tatooine. The clashes between the police and protesters demanding an end to unemployment continued for a second straight day. Demonstrators have been calling on the government to implement a 2017 deal to create jobs in oil companies and infrastructure projects. The unemployment rate in the region now is at 30%, one of Tunisia's highest. Tunisia was the birthplace of the 2011 Arab Spring uprisings that toppled those in power in countries across North Africa and the Middle East. Since then, its economy has been in crisis and no government has managed to resolve problems including high inflation and corruption. A rocket has landed in the perimeter of Baghdad International Airport in close proximity of the US military headquarters. The Iraqi military says the Katyusha rocket was launched from a village west of Baghdad. It said there was no significant damage to life or property as a result of the attack. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. This is a second such attack hitting the Baghdad International Airport in the past 5 days. The US says it no longer wants to dethrone Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. The US Special Representative for Syria Engagement, James Jeffries, said Washington is instead asking for a radical shift in the regime's behavior. Jeffries said Washington only wishes the country to enact major reforms akin to the Japanese overhaul following its defeat in World War II. His comments mark a paradigm shift in policy after demanding Assad's ouster since the start of Syrian civil war in 2011. Jeffrey said the latest US sanctions are not meant to torpedo the economy but to stop Assad and his allies from profiting from the conflict. Earlier this week, Washington imposed new sanctions on the Syrian government targeting 39 new entities. Now, the US has strongly condemned the attack against the Afghan Attorney General's lawyers working to facilitate prisoner releases. In a tweet, Washington's envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said domestic and foreign spoilers are trying to disrupt and delay the peace process. Khalilzad called for a full investigation to find and punish the perpetrators. He urged Kabul and the Taliban to push forward with the intra-Afghan talks. Yesterday, gunmen killed 5 people, including 2 prosecutors who were members of the team supervising the release of Taliban prisoners as part of the Doha deal. Meanwhile, Russia's ambassador to the US, Anatoly Antonov, has met with Khalilzad to discuss coordination in Afghanistan. We're now taking a short break, but stay tuned for more news. Welcome back. The city of Seattle says it will take back control of the so-called Capitol Hill organized protest area. In a news conference, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan said the recent shooting incident prompted the decision as it affected businesses and local residents. Durkan said the administration will prefer a negotiated solution, contrary to the police chief seeking greater authority to use force if required. Earlier on Saturday, 2 shooting incidents left 1 dead and 2 others injured. Meanwhile, a New York City police officer has been suspended without pay after rendering a black man unconscious in a chokehold. New York Mayor and its police department deemed the incident unacceptable days after the city council outlawed chokeholds after George Floyd's death. Beijing says it will respond if Washington continues to target Chinese media organizations operating in the U.S. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian made these remarks at a press briefing after the U.S. designated 4 more news organizations as propaganda outlets. The State Department listed China Central Television, China News Service, People's Daily, and Global Times as foreign missions. In a press conference, U.S. diplomat for East Asia alleged the outlets were mouthpieces for Beijing. The latest order follows a similar move against 5 other Chinese media outlets, including state news agency Xinhua in February. US-based employees of all 9 outlets will be treated the same as staff at Beijing's diplomatic missions. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says he is willing to meet with US President Donald Trump to settle the ongoing conflict. In an interview, Maduro said he will be open to the idea of meeting with Trump on the basis of mutual respect. This comes after Trump tracked back on his remarks over the possibility of a holding peace summit with Maduro. In a tweet, the US president said he will only meet with Venezuela's leader to discuss his departure from the office. Earlier on Sunday, Trump had hinted at talks with Maduro and downplayed recognizing Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido as country's legitimate leader. New Zealand police have seized assets worth $90.68 million linked to a Russian man suspected of laundering billions of dollars in digital currency. In a statement, the department said this is the largest restraint of funds in New Zealand police history. Police said the seized assets were being held in a New Zealand company owned by Alexander Vinnick. The man is accused of masterminding a Bitcoin laundering ring and is wanted by both France and the United States. US authorities accuse Vinnick of running BTC, a digital currency exchange used to trade Bitcoin to facilitate crimes. Winnick has denied the charges, saying he was a technical consultant to BTC and not its operator. A UK-led team of wildlife scientists has launched an initiative to track wildlife before, during and after lockdown. The researchers' aim is to study what they have called the anthropause, the worldwide temporary slowdown in human activity. Researchers say by measuring the impact of slowdown, they will reveal ways in which the world can share the increasingly crowded planet. They outlined steps to allow scientists to learn as much as possible from the sudden absence of humans in many landscapes. The study depends on permission to carry out the work and access the information about human movement as well as animal tracking data. This comes after many accounts of wildlife moving freely through urban settings amid pandemic lockdowns. The newly crowned world's fastest supercomputer, Japan's Fugaku, is being deployed in the fight against the coronavirus. Japanese machine can perform more than 415 quadrillion computations a second and has already worked out how breath droplets spread. Experts are hoping the supercomputer will also be able to help narrow down the search for effective treatments for the virus. Developers say Fugaku is about 3 times faster than US-developed Summit supercomputer. Japan's computer also topped all supercomputers for the first time in history as a single machine simultaneously. Fugaku is expected to start full-time operation from April 2021 after 6 years of development. In Russia's Lake Baikal, an outbreak of disease among the sponge population can pose a threat to its famously crystal clear waters. Scientists have noticed a drastic decline in the sponge population, especially in the Bay of Litsyanka, that has been a popular tourist spot. Let's find out more in this report.
For 5 years, researchers have been monitoring the number of sponges and collecting samples to see how many of them are diseased. However, it is not entirely clear what is causing the spread of disease among the population. They say at first, diseased sponges lost their pigment or turned a rose color, then parts of the seabed became covered in dying organic matter.
On the face of it, we see that in places with a higher anthropogenic impact, the situation with diseased sponges is significantly worse. In the Bay of Litsyanka, I already consider it to be a local ecological catastrophe because the diversity of sponges there has been lost. The number of them has fallen catastrophically and everything there is covered in a layer of slime, dying organic matter. There is no chance for the ecosystem to recover in the near future.
Sponges play a vital role in filtering the water in Lake Baikal. According to the scientists, a sponge of only 5 centimeters in diameter can filter up to 20 liters of water in 24 hours. They believe drastic measures need to be taken to halt the spread of the disease.
Litsyanka is a place that I think should be temporarily closed to tourists because nature can heal itself and it can do it quite quickly. But it needs to be left alone for some time at least. Then we would need to observe certain rules because it's all built up for many years.
Baikal is the world's largest freshwater lake and is home to many unique species.
The Golden Globes Awards, scheduled to take place in January next year, have been delayed due to the coronavirus pandemic. The decision comes after concerns that a field consisting only of films released in 2020 will not be as broad or competitive as in previous years. Next year's Golden Globes will take place on February 28th. In a statement, the Hollywood Press Association said it will provide guidance around eligibility, voting period, and revised nominations in the coming weeks. The Globes are the first major Hollywood awards gala of the year and are seen as an early bellwether for the all-important Academy Awards. The US has accused India of engaging in unfair and discriminatory practices on charter air transportation services. The US Transportation Department has issued an order requiring Indian air carriers to apply for case-by-case authorization before charter flights. The department said it seeks to restore a level playing field for American airlines under the US-India Air Transport Agreement. The ruling said Delhi had banned all scheduled services and stopped approving US carriers for charter operations. It said Air India has been conducting to and from repatriation charter flights since May 7th. Washington first raised objections with Delhi through engagement by the US Embassy, New Delhi on May 28. The order will come into effect from July 22nd. European stock markets are trading higher following a turbulent session as President Donald Trump said the China trade deal is fully intact. Frankfurt's DAX is trading over 2% higher. CAC 40 in Paris has gained nearly 1.5% higher. London's FTSE 100 is trading nearly 1% higher. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index led the gains, closing over 1% higher. Nikkei 225 gained 0.5%, while Shanghai Composite and Seoul's Kospi gained a fraction. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price has gained over 0.5%. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.